Hi people, so happy Pride Month. I know it probably hasn't really felt too much like Pride Month because people took this as an opportunity to be extra homophobic, but it is June and it is Pride Month. Okay, nobody can take that away from you. But I haven't really ever made a video that was exclusively about like queerness, and what better time to do it? And I want to do it more often because I don't feel like I do it enough. And this thing we're talking about today is really dangerous, honestly. What's been going on lately with all the legislation. You read the title. We're talking about transphobia. Yes. May not be necessarily the most lighthearted thing, but I don't really talk about lighthearted things now, do I? Unless I'm talking about like SZA, who's on tour right now. And I really wish I could be there, but you know, we gotta take L's sometimes. So I saw this recent video from somebody that I followed. Okay, I will not mention who they are because I don't want to send any hate their way, but they made a video basically saying spouting a lot of transphobia, and they covered it up by saying at the beginning, oh, I don't want, I will not tolerate any transphobia. In the comments were hella transphobic, but whatever. And also they in the video were saying they were kind of dog whistling transphobia, if not just being plain out transphobic. And whenever they were in the comments called out for it, they got mad and like, I don't know, but they clearly didn't do any research why trans people feel the way that they do, or hormones or gender affirming care and why that's so important to the trans community. They did no research, okay? And it was very obvious. It was just them spouting their opinion, even though a lot of things they're talking about were based in fact. And whenever you do that, it's very dangerous. And I feel like people on the right, that have more conservative thinking talking points, I've noticed that a lot of times a Ben Shapiro or a Steven Crowder or whoever is a conservative, they rarely ever bring up research. And if they do, they typically leave out a part of the research to match their argument. And as you have noticed, hopefully clearly, people on the left always have to back up their opinion, because that's what the frick you're supposed to do. Whenever you talk about something, you should research it, especially if, like I said, a lot of the things you're talking about are based in fact. Why you should be double checking your research, okay? So I just feel like it's really dangerous. And that video got 34,000 views. At least that's the last time I checked it. It probably has gotten more at this point, but it got 34,000 views. And I feel like a lot of people recently have been using transphobia and homophobia to stay relevant. Think about Aiden Ross. Talked about him in my last video. Also, thank you guys for all the support. Okay, I really appreciate it. But I talked about my last video, and he is someone who used transphobia to stay relevant, even though not really sure it really worked, but he's been using like conservatism and like far right stuff to make him more relevant. And that I just think that's so disgusting, okay? And I wanted to because I was following this person because they're a Black creator, and for the most part they had talked about Black issues, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to support them. And then they make this video, and I was like, really? It was disappointing to see, because I don't know, if you mainly on your channel talk about Black people and Black issues, why don't you talk about the Black trans people that are getting killed and are going missing like every day, every week? Why don't you talk about that? Or getting killed? Why don't you talk about that instead of just making an issue worse? Especially, it was in the middle of Pride Month. I'm like, that has to be on purpose. I want to give you the benefit of the doubt, but it has to be on purpose. So especially with the Nick Merckx thing, although that is more about like gay people and all of that. It's just, I feel like this Pride Month, a lot of people took the opportunity to just be extra homophobic, extra transphobic. And so I want to balance out the universe, if you will, because I don't feel like a lot of people are right now. And I want to balance out the universe and actually do research like I do, as always. Always put my sources down in the bottom, okay? I'm gonna do my research as I always do. Get rid of all that negativity and show you the facts. Because that's what the frick I do. So, we're going to be mainly talking about legislation in America and the recent bills that have been passed. There have been 560 anti-trans bills that have been in circulation this entire year. We're only halfway through the year. Already 560. Now, not all of them have been passed. In fact, 113 failed, but 364 are active. Let me repeat that. 364 are active. 83 have been passed. So I don't know if I got that from this really cool website. It kind of reminds me of mapping police violence. It's kind of just mapping out anti-trans bills. It's called translegislation.com. So I don't know if 364 means that they were already a thing before this year. I don't know. But that's a lot. That's what I do know, is that's a lot. We're going to be breaking down those bills and talking about them a little bit more. Now, I want to talk mainly, we are going to talk about healthcare bills, and then we're going to get into sports, which these are the two main like anti-trans things that a lot of the GOP are using to villainize trans people. So I just want to mainly talk about those, since that's, I feel like bills are a pretty good reflection of what a certain, like what people are concerned about and what the GOP knows people are going to be mad about or care about. They did do like the bathroom thing like back in the day, but a lot of people were like, who cares, just let them use the bathroom. And so they moved to sports, and that's why the whole sports thing is happening, is they had to find a different way to villainize trans people. And a lot of people don't understand the healthcare aspect, so I think it's really important to break it down. So, of course, Texas and Florida are like the main states that are passing a lot of bills banning gender affirming care. So Texas banned hormones and gender affirming care surgeries. I have a Vox article on it. It says the Texas legislature passed a ban Wednesday on gender affirming care for kids under 18, which includes hormone treatments and gender affirming surgeries. Though such surgeries are rarely performed on children, the ban allows trans teens already receiving hormone treatments to temporarily continue them. Still, it requires them to wean themselves off the treatments. Republican Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign the bill. So this was back in May. So I'm sure it was already passed at this point. Greg Abbott is an absolute demon. So I do not expect the best. And then in Florida, they passed similar bills. Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who reportedly is gearing up to, okay, who cares? He already announced that he was going to be president. He imposed one of the bills that imposes felony penalties on healthcare providers who administer gender affirming care to kids under 18. The law includes a provision that concerns custody disputes for a child receiving gender affirming care, and though it only applies to a narrow set of circumstances, advocates worry that it could lead to Florida overriding other states' rulings. So a lot of these bills are so far setting a lot of precedent for what could eventually become an even more dangerous situation. In my opinion, it's already pretty getting dangerous. And some other states are starting to take after Florida and Texas, like Arizona, who has passed a lot of bills, or is looking to pass a lot of bills in a similar stance on like education and healthcare. So this ideology is spreading to other states who are also more conservative and are looking to do the same thing. It seems like Texas and Florida are just kind of the blueprint for that, because they are just the worst. And I am from Texas, so girl, I'm not proud to be here. Okay, I really wonder sometimes. I'm like, because some people from different countries are like proud to be where they're from. I am not. Okay, I wonder what that feels like. I want to know what that feels like, because girl, I've never felt it in my life. But these are life-threatening bills that put people financially and mentally at risk. The hormones and gender-forming care are very important to transitioning in the trans experience. Now, there are steps to transitioning as far as I'm concerned, from what I've learned. First in transitioning is gender affirmation and social acceptance. That's a really big part of transitioning. Hormones and surgery are then followed shortly after that, and they take a lot of consultation with a medical professional for like months or years to figure out like if they can qualify for the hormones and the surgery. Okay, so it's a lot of counseling, a lot of work that goes into it. It's not just like, here you go, take some HRT. It's not like that, okay? They don't just hand out hormones. You have to be approved for it by a medical professional who understands this stuff. So why the state or the country should have, you know, ruling over a medical professional who has studied this, I do not know. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Arizona's law allows guardians and teachers to misgender students, which just could cause a lot of mental anguish to a lot of trans people. These are very important steps. Like just gendering someone correctly, that just takes respect. Okay, it's just a respect thing. So it's just totally malicious for Arizona to be like, no, actually, teachers, misgender your students, do it on purpose. It's just an absolute demon. You have to be an absolute demon to do that. Just call someone by their pronouns. Like, girl, why is that so hard? The thing is that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about it from this angle that cis people do gender affirming care as well. So why is it a big issue when trans people do it? Men get hair transplants when their hair is falling out. At least they should. Anyways, girls get wigs. You know, if like a girl has alopecia, or even if they don't, and they just want to wear a wig, they wear a wig to feel more feminine, or get acrylic nails. Like that, this is all gender affirming care that people do to feel more masculine or feel more feminine. Like cis people do this as well. So why shouldn't a trans person be allowed to do it as well? I don't get it. Why would you compromise somebody's mental health and their life for the sake of a culture war to energize your base if you're like a GOP politician? It's evil. You're playing with people's lives. Like, just misgendering someone or not socially accepting them like that, like I said, that's a really big part of being trans. And if you don't even do that, that could, I mean, there are a lot of trans people who kill themselves. Like, why as another human can you not look at someone's life and care about their mental health? Like, saying someone's pronouns correctly is a basic thing. Like, I just don't get it. I just feel like you have to be evil to not even try and understand it, not even try to understand how this process works. And there's just a lot of misinformation about like what hospitals do, and that they're just cutting off children's genitals. And there are a lot of trans people that don't even need like bottom surgery or top surgery to feel gender euphoric. Like some people, it's different for everybody. And a lot of those surgeries, as the Vox article said, don't happen to people under 18. Like, so why is there so much misinformation about this process whenever you could just Google it or ask a trans person? I don't get it. So next we're going to be talking about sports, which is a biggie. Okay, like I said, the GOP did like a study, a poll or something, to figure out what way can we demonize trans people the most. The bathroom thing didn't work. Sports does, because people love sports, I guess. I assume so, because this one is super popular among the base. So there have been several bills banning trans people from high school and college sports. And I want to break down why these bills And the debate over whether trans people can be in sports is silly on multiple levels. Now, trans people only make up 0.05 of the American population. Only like 1.6 people in the United States are trans. Very small amount. So imagine the amount of people, amount of trans people that are in sports of any kind. It's gotta be very minimal, okay? Now, there was a bill, I believe in Kansas, that banned one trans girl from competing in sports. And there are several bills that are kind of pedophilic, and they allow for like PE teachers to search if somebody is trans or not, if like somebody speculates that they are, which doesn't just harm trans people and like traumatizes them, but it also could harm a cis person. Imagine if a cis person is speculated of being trans, a cis girl, and they just got like sexually assaulted because somebody speculated they were trans. Like, this doesn't just harm trans people, it also harms your children. It also harms cis children. It's just weird, and it's pedophilic. And why? It's kind of similar to like white supremacy and sexism and all that. Like, I feel like this is a really good example that marginalization doesn't just harm the like minority group, it also harms everybody involved. Like, white supremacy doesn't just harm black people and people of color, it also harms white people. And I feel like this is a really good example of that, because some cis person could be subject to the same like sexual assault, like having to have a grown person look into their pants because somebody speculated that they were trans. Like, it's unnecessary, and it's a really good example of how marginalization affects everybody. Now, there was this girl, Riley Gaines, she's like an American swimmer, who is really mad because a trans person beat her. Now, the trans person in question, the trans woman in question got like 5th or 4th place. So that means that 4 other cis people, 4 other cis women beat this trans person. But yet Riley Gaines is now on Fox News spewing like transphobia. You're just, at that point, you're just a sore loser. Like, just accept the fact that you suck. I guess it's just a skill issue. This narrative that trans people are just like superhuman, like, it's honestly kind of pro-trans, if anything. Because you're just saying trans people are superhuman and cis people suck. We just suck, okay? Which is just not true. If anything, by your metric, your slightly sexist metric, by taking estrogen, trans women are like kind of nerfing themselves, if anything. Like, whenever you take hormones, I don't think people realize this, but your hormonal makeup is changing. Like, that's the entire point. So they aren't like the superhuman. They're not like invincible or something, you know. They're just regular people. Like, I don't think you realize this. Once again, this would take one Google search for you to figure out how this works, but yet a lot of people choose not to. And let's dive a little bit deeper into the hormones issue, especially in regards to sports. Messi, the great Messi, like the second highest paid sports baller in the world, took growth hormones whenever he was younger because he had a hormone deficiency. Yet nobody cares about that. But isn't that an advantage that someone else that was in Messi's position couldn't afford to have? Why is that not an issue? Sports isn't necessarily a fair thing. Okay, I think we all want to believe that it's like this totally fair system or something. Honestly, I don't think anyone really cares. I think they just care when a trans person is involved. Because the thing is, especially in regards to women's sports, which trans women are always like the most villainized out of the group, ain't nobody care about women's sports. You don't even watch it. But yet, because a trans person is involved, you want to make it a big deal. Where was this energy before? And I bet you are still not watching women's sports. So why do you care? And like I said, the amount of trans women in sports has got to be like 5. I don't know, it can't be that much. And even if it is, just let them compete. Just let them compete. They're not superhuman. Everything you say is incorrect. They're just competing. But like I said, a lot of these bills are very dangerous. Not so much the sports one, but especially the healthcare one, I think is a really dangerous narrative that only, like I said, takes a little bit of research to understand where trans people are coming from, how this process works, and why they think the way that they do or feel the way that they do. It doesn't take that much effort. And yet I want to believe that there's a good group of people in America who aren't transphobic, but I don't think, I honestly think that the majority of America is transphobic. I really do think that. It's probably similar to the way it was like back in the early 2000s where like everyone was homophobic. But it'll get better. I can only hope that it will. But even now we're seeing like this narrative again that is like anti-gay. Like I feel like we're just repeating history again. Like now it's an issue to be gay again, where I thought like, wasn't it 64% of Republicans are like okay with gay marriage? Like it feels like we're just reverting and having the same conversation over again. It's really tiring. Like I said, this Black creator who made this video, why, as a minority, I just don't understand how you can look at someone else's struggle. You can look at someone getting killed. Just like that happens to your people too. Like that happens to Black people. We get killed all the time. So why can you not look at another minority's struggle and understand it as well when isn't that what you're fighting for? Is for civil liberties and for this to not happen? You should be fighting for it to not happen to anybody. Like as a human, how do you not look at someone, even if for whatever reason you do not agree with them, how can you not look at them as a human and say they shouldn't be killed on the basis of their existence? I don't understand that, and I will never understand that. Like whenever gay people are like racist or something, I'm like, how does that make sense? How does that compute in your head? We're all fighting for the same thing, but yet for some reason we hate each other sometimes. I don't know. I wish it wasn't like that. But profiting politically or socially in this creator's case, or monetarily, because now they're like monetized from this, profiting off of people's trauma and their existence is evil. It's disgusting. Like I literally stayed up after reading the comments that night and watching a little bit of the video. I literally stayed up until like 4 or 5 a.m. because I was just so freaking mad. I was just so freaking mad that like it's just evil. I don't know. Hopefully somebody out there understands, and hopefully the comments of this video aren't totally transphobic. I hope that this brings out all of the beautiful people who understand what I'm talking about. What do we expect from America? Nothing good. Okay, bye.